Okay, welcome to the IronRodcast. We made it to number 2.
Hey, we weren't shut down.
Yeah,
That's exciting.
In the 24 hours since we posted number 1, the church didn't approach us and shut us down, and we weren't actually hit by lightning or anything. So
no, the weather got better. I'm just
Yeah.
saying, it's 80 degrees today.
Nice. Yeah, no, it's been the world is a better
Lord
place.
is pleased with what we've done.
All right. Anyway, I'm John, and who else is here?
I'm Peter Nash.
My name's Rhett.
And hello. This is number 2, and this is going to be interesting because for Sunday school this week, once again I wasn't there. I'm never there. But for Sunday school this week, we had like a weird guest speaker kind of weird thing. So we were wondering if we were even going to talk about it or not.
Oh, yes, we are.
These two gentlemen seem to want to talk about it. Now, let me just ask, okay, before I ask you how it went, I was grabbing people, to get interviewed for the bishop today. And most people I grabbed seem to say positive things about, what occurred in Sunday school and in Priesthood Relief Society today.
Okay, here's my fear. We haven't gotten to this in regular Sunday school yet, but eventually the Israelites make it down to the valley. This is before, okay, you're going to spend 40 years in Sinai now. Like, they come to the valley of where the Israelites' land is supposed to be, and they go down, and 5 people come back and say, oh, it was fantastic, it was wonderful, it was great. And another 5 people come back, 6 and 6 I think it was, and they say, oh man, it was awful, it was horrible, there's these people there, it's going to be a bloody battle.
I thought it was 10 and 2.
Maybe that's what it is, John. I haven't studied that far ahead, but at any rate, it's the Lord gets upset with them because they don't come back and espouse the positive things.
Right.
And so I'm afraid that I'm going to be one of the 10 who is just completely negative.
Well, they fill a necessary part of the story. Kind of like how Judas Iscariot is in the celestial kingdom because he fulfilled a part of the plan.
Oh my gosh. For those who don't know, that was sarcasm coming from John right there.
I don't know about that.
My point in saying that was...
It was sarcasm. But the question is, was that sarcasm?
I don't even know anymore, dude. It's a great Simpsons.
The people that I spoke to didn't have a positive take on it.
Okay.
And most of them came away, I was like, what in the world was that?
I actually have a take on different takes, but I would rather discuss it first and then talk about it.
Well, we need to say what exactly it was. So what was it?
Sunday school?
Yeah.
I actually missed the first 10 minutes because I was in a stake meeting, but from what I understand, it was a combined lesson, elders quorum, it was the whole ward for 2 hours. It was Sunday school and into...
It was stake conference is what it was.
That's next week, but yeah, kind of.
It was a form of stake conference for sure.
And it was a special speaker. I don't know who arranged it. I don't know where she came from.
She came from because her son apparently is in the ward. He's new in the ward.
Yeah.
And see, I wouldn't have pegged her as that old. I was thinking like mid to late 30s, but I guess if he was 18, it's possible. But...
Yeah.
I guess yeah, she did seem kind of young, huh? Oh well.
Well, she maybe comes from a family that has good genes because if you look at her brother, who apparently is Lloyd Newell, he was in church today.
Yeah. Yeah, it's my brother.
Lloyd Newell?
Lloyd Newell was in our class today.
Yeah. Look around.
I know, you shouldn't have sworn so loud during
I swear once. No, I want him to record my voicemail on my phone.
That would have been awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, would you for calling Rhett's phone?
I wish somebody had done that now.
I didn't. You guys didn't point him out. Sorry.
Oh, man.
That's my go-to for any famous person who's famous for their voice. It's like, will you record my voicemail?
Oh, dang, yeah.
I want Sean Connery to say that I'm the last of the dragons. Anyway, so going back to her, she's a life coach. I got that from the lesson.
Yes, that's basically
Mother of
what
5 life coach.
Yeah. Or I should say that was her qualification.
Yeah. The lesson, I still... don't know what it was on. I mean, I do, but I don't. Here's what I'll just tell you what happened. When I walked in, the room was animated. Like there was an atmosphere. I'm like, oh, okay, there's something cool going on in here. We had both sides open, so 2 different blackboards. She had our friend Tanner writing on one blackboard, so both kids could see. But essentially, she had 2 boxes up, one box was full of positive words, adjectives, states of being. The other one was negative words, adjectives, states of being. And to boil her lesson? Could we call it that? Lecture. Down into
motivational,
into the very end. The one positive, not the one, but the main positive thing I got at the end was that she said, "Look, if you're in a negative state in your life, or if negative thoughts come at you, or negative feelings or whatever, combat those with your positives that are specific about you. For example, if you're I don't remember what she used, like, if you're a hard worker, no, what was it? I can't remember how she did it, but find something positive about you and focus on that. So if you get she was using our friend Chase as example because he's cheap. Like, that's what he said. It's like, yeah, girls say I'm cheap. That's a bad thing. She was trying to say, okay, well, if girls say you're cheap, then you yourself think I'm cheap, and you get down on yourself, and that's the bigger enemy. It's not other people, it's how you feel about yourself. And look at the reasons why you're supposedly cheap. Maybe you're not cheap. Maybe you're just frugal. Maybe you're saving for a house, or whatever. Say, no, these are the real reasons why. And don't let that negative alter ego. She actually said she wanted us to all come up with the bad person who lets in those things, like an alternate name than ours. The joke was somebody said Carlos and whatever. I said Tyler Durden because of Fight Club. I thought it was funny.
I'm surprised no one came up with the name Gozer.
Gozer
as
the
the gatekeeper for their door.
Yeah, it's kind of the gatekeeper for the bad. But my quick take on the whole thing is that it seemed like a really long time to boil down one concept, and she was too animated. It was like she was trying too hard. It's like when you see someone who thinks they're good at basketball, but they're not, and so they're like, they over try and they overdo everything. That's the way I felt with the lesson. I felt like maybe she's a life coach, maybe this is her profession, but I don't think it was the best of the profession.
I see.
Not saying it was bad.
It's very clear that she knows what she's doing within her craft. The trouble that I had with this, and I'll be honest, I left about 30 minutes before it ended. I had to go down to linger longer and help prepare for things there. But it just sort of seemed like I couldn't tell what the point was.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. I was like, where are we going with this?
Well, I was going to ask you, right? You said it took her forever to boil down something specific, but I didn't get what.
Oh, the specific thing was, like, if you get negative on yourself, to focus on your positives. Or to use the positive to combat the negative. But honestly, that's my take on what she was trying to say. She never actually said that. And that was in the last 2 minutes, so I don't know.
Okay, so if that is the point, how do you feel about the point?
I'm okay with the point because I think I was trying to find a point, and so I found one that suited my needs for a point.
Ooh, I want to come back to that towards the end. Okay. That's good. Okay,
well, my knee jerk is I kind of don't like the point, because if there's one thing I can't stand, it's too much kind of after school special, like, you're special, believe in yourself because you're a great person and you're an individual. And I think maybe Hitler had too much of that because he's not great. And maybe he shouldn't have been affirmed like that.
I'm going to disagree with that. I think her point was saying, look, everybody thinks negatively about themselves at given times. Yeah. If you think about those negative things enough, that's what is going to essentially define you. Mm-hmm. And you have to make the conscious decision to say, I'm not going to focus on this, or maybe I can recognize what those negative things are and I can move past it. And I can say, okay, let's turn this around and make this a positive in some way so that I get into my house of my core values thing, instead of being in the house of fear all the time. And I think for me, that's the one good thing that I walked away from, to say, okay, yes, I think everyone should analyze themselves, look inside and see what it is that is a problem, and focus on those things to turn them to a positive.
Well, I can totally, I think that's good, because we do get down on ourselves. I think it's safe to say that everybody feels badly about themselves in some way, some respect, varying degrees. One thing that I always have this fear of is, don't you hate it when people accentuate their positives to the point where their positives become extreme negatives. You know, like maybe their positive is, you know what my positive is? It's speaking my mind. And so license to be a total jerk right there, you know?
There was a couple other things like I noticed on her list of bad things or whatever, you know, and they were things like, you know, lazy, sloth, anger. What else? There was a ton of things. Vulgar. It's the bad traits you don't want to have if you're trying to live a life dedicated to, you know, the Savior. Which, you know, I'm totally fine with. My one thing was that I think some people are inherently certain ways, and I think that but I don't think she was trying to go there. But that just kind of popped in my head at the time. I don't know. Anyway, let's skip that thought. I don't have any better thoughts on that.
Actually, I think that's a cool thought that we could talk about as a second topic some other day. Is character traits. I think that may be one of mine.
One of yours, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, and
yeah. We may do it some other day.
I would love to do that, just because and it wasn't the negative things. I mean, obviously we shouldn't be violent people, but it was kind of like, you know what, we don't all need to be the happy-go-lucky people either, and everybody kind of has a role. Actually, that leads into my take on people's takes from this. Okay. Like, what did people take out of it? My take on people's takes, and I learned this on my mission. I think, and it's because I never really thought about it before. People respond differently to different people, and people, in my opinion, respond in kind to their own people or their own personas.
Right,
yes.
Right.
And so I think her style of teaching, the three of us here are pretty similar in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. I don't think the three of us here would have had a different take on what happened in today's lesson or gotten out of it. But I think there was people in the room that got some positive things for their lives because they are akin to that type of style. Even it's not a style thing. Mm-hmm. You know, and on the mission, what it was, we used to joke there was this one elder who was quiet and a little weird. Nice guy, but just a little weird, a little quiet.
Guy who threw rocks at dogs?
No. That guy needed to get his butt beat down. No, this guy was a companion. He was just a quiet guy. And he had success just as much as anybody else did on the mission. You know, and success in Chile is baptisms. So it's like the actual numbers count in Chile. And his baptisms, you would meet the people he baptized, and they were exactly like him. And it was like, they're his persona. And they were people who probably wouldn't listen to me, but they listened to him. So I kind of think that out of today's lesson was like, you know, I saw some people taking huge notes, and I'm like, this isn't even noteworthy, you know? I like taking notes, but for them it is. So, I think it was positive for people who aren't us. That makes sense?
Yes.
Okay.
I know exactly what you're talking about. As a teacher, I've gone to other people's classes before to watch the different style. Like, I've had people tell me, oh man, this person's such a good teacher. And I go and I watch them to see the style, so that I can maybe use that in my approach sometimes to say, oh, okay, they reach different people in different ways, and to try and see all of those different ways. Yeah, absolutely.
The danger here, though, is there's a lot of fluff. Like, this is my problem with the Institute classes. I've been to a few that are really good. I've been to some that are really bad. And I'm like, this is teaching at the college age level. This is like, you know, the teacher gives me a hug on the door on the way out, and we talked warm fuzzies the whole time. I think that's kidding ourselves on a certain level. I don't think that happened today, but I think it can happen.
Yeah.
So,
and in fairness, the point that you just brought up, some people need that lesson. Some people need a hug out the door. They do need a warm fuzzy. Because they're like, oh crap, no one loves me, no one likes me, I don't like me.
Yeah.
So that's a really good point that I hadn't even considered.
A lot of times, nothing gets me down more than when someone says, you need a hug. That's interesting the way you're putting it, because that's one thing. You guys probably never went to EFY.
No.
Did you?
Yes, I did, and you forget I worked in the EFY office.
I know you worked in the EFY office, but I don't remember you actually going to EFY.
I did.
Okay.
I went when I was 6. I went like the year before I was at BYU, which was weird because it was like
yeah. I mean, you tend to go when you're like 14 and then peter off.
Yeah,
but I'm an EFY graduate. I went 4 years in a row, and I really liked EFY. I thought it was great. I thought the speakers were great, and helped me see things in ways I hadn't seen, and they helped me have attitudes about things that were good, that I hadn't seen before. But the thing I hated about it was it seems like they treated loudness as a virtue.
Oh, and man, you beat me to my point here.
Really? Yeah.
Yes.
Like I really couldn't stand the cheers and the spirit, not the spirit, small s spirit, like team spirit, exuberance,
team spirit.
Team spirit, which people love that. People love that, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing.
Teenagers love that.
Teenagers love that. As a teenager, I didn't love it. As a teenager, I was quieter than I am now, and I'm not super quiet now, I guess, but. That was really rough for me. I really hated having to act that way. But yeah, what were you gonna say?
Well, there were a couple of things from the lesson itself that I
want to talk about EFY. Can we put that on the list? Because I have a lot of takes on, and they're good. They're not bad. They're good takes.
I don't have my pen.
Because you remember, I worked there for a year, and I saw all the different from the high up in administration clear down to the counselors or the actual pot smoking kids who would come. So, no, like we had kids out there smoking pot. I'm like, really, dude, really? That's your idea. But I do have a lot of takes. That would be a good one for me.
Okay.
So from this lesson, I wanted to some of the things that came up that I couldn't understand what was going on is the way that she presented things.
Yeah, the box. Let's talk about the whole piece of paper you're holding there by yourself.
Well, I want to wait just a second, because my first note here was, why is she shouting at us about how the Savior died for us?
Yeah, I think part of her elevated voice was the room we were in. I hope that's part of the reason.
It's possible, yes, but I have a loud voice without shouting at people.
Okay,
and then later on,
maybe
I made another note.
A loud voice.
Why does she keep shouting?
Yeah.
Like, she's still shouting. And I talked to a couple of other people, and they made the same comment. Like, wow, that was, like, overly forceful.
Yeah.
And
it's okay.
It just goes along with what John was saying there, which is, I think it's like that type of thing. Talk up, build the energy. You get people going
Mussolini,
by
the Office Mussolini episode.
Right. It's real. It's a fact about presentation.
Get people riled up through adrenaline rather than through perhaps the quiet whisper.
But isn't the point they're getting riled up?
See, one of the I guess the last frustrating thing for me is the fact that it was supposed to be about how the atonement is supposed to help you, and you forgive yourself, and you can be able to forgive other people. And I never really heard scriptures being used in any of this, and that was for me one of the frustrating things. As a Sunday school teacher, I get very snobbish about the way people teach.
Yeah.
And when they leave out some of the critical things, in my opinion, that should be there, one of which being scriptures, I get really, really frustrated. And I just think, how can you leave out, like, this is the most important thing. Mm-hmm. Why would you leave that out? And I think she could have definitely turned it around by bringing more scriptures in, bringing in something more, talking from the brethren, from the apostles or the 70. And in fact, I can think of a quote off the top of my head as she was talking about happiness. I was like, there's a quote I think from one of the apostles says, "A perpetually unhappy saint is an oxymoron." As Latter-day Saints, we should be the most happiest people out there because we have an understanding of the gospel and what the
was
atonement.
that C.S. Lewis who said that?
It was William Shakespeare. No, it was the one who wrote Jesus the Christ.
Was it? Was it
Talmud?
really?
I think it was Talmud.
Okay, Talmud.
One thing along with these lines, would this have been better as an FHE or
I think so.
Even a fireside?
I think so.
That could have been really good. Well, the thing is, I think one of our sort of complaints about, and I don't want to complain too much more about this.
Yeah, I don't either.
But it is that this event that we went to at church. Well, I didn't go to it, but that we were supposed to go to at church today is kind of like what we're doing now. It's sort of extracurricular. It wasn't so much Sunday
Yeah.
school. But like we said before, we don't really think what we're doing now is a bad thing. This Sunday school lesson could have been a lot worse. It could have been, because there are Sunday school lessons that don't talk about Christ, that don't make the link of
Yeah.
Christ at all. And it sounds like she really wanted to do that really a lot, and she was successful at linking the atonement to all this.
Somewhat. It was. I've had a lot worse Sunday school lessons. Where I would put it in the ranks, it's somewhere in the middle. Middle, scale of 1 to 10. You're like, no, I don't want to do a scale because anything below an 8 is bad on a scale. But somewhere on a, the worst I've ever had, the best I've ever had. Yeah, it's just somewhere in the middle. I just think it would have been better as an FHE. I mean, our FHE activities are wanting for more, and maybe we couldn't. It's why it's interesting with this bishop. We've had a couple lessons now where it's like I feel like, and maybe it's my fault for still being in a university ward, but I feel like they're bringing in a special guest to speak to us because we're 19-year-old kids that need it, and it's like I'm looking at her, I'm like. She's probably in my demographic.
Yeah.
Well, it's clear that what was her name? Sister Payne. Thank you. It's clear she is well put together as far as her intellect and the things that she wants to discuss.
Yeah.
It's clear that I wouldn't necessarily call her a master at her trade, but she knows exactly what she's doing. I was impressed with her ability to keep a crowd together.
Yeah, that's hard.
That is a difficult thing to do, to keep people's attention and to keep them focusing and going on with things. I was impressed with that because not everybody can do that, and that was impressive.
I did like she said one time she was talking about looking at ourselves and giving ourselves positive affirmation. And she actually said, I was thinking Stuart Smalley first off, but then she said affirmative affirmation, and I'm like, wait, what?
Let's do this. As a way of kind of using her lesson here, she wants us to turn things to a more positive strain.
Okay.
I mean, her whole point was if we just focus in on negative things, then, we're just going to be stuck in negativism.
It's true.
And we're going to waste a lot of our lives. So are there things about your guys' life that you would look at and say, man, I waste a lot of time doing this? As an example, if I can offer an example, I am a part of an outdoor soccer team. A lot of the organization kind of got dropped, and so I had to pick it up and do it. And so I felt a little put out by it, and I had to tell my team, hey, look, the league canceled the start of the game, and it's going to be another week. One of the other players on the team started mouthing off about the league. And I just got so upset to say, look, you so-and-so, you couldn't even bother to get into the office. Like, I snapped. Mm-hmm. I took all of the hard work that I had done in trying to get people into there, and I took his comment very personally. And so I reacted out, and he and I traded a few emails, during the day because of it, and none of it was positive in any way, shape, or form.
What's for me, I was entertained all day reading. Because I was CC'd on him, I was reading about it, I was laughing all morning long.
But you know the point that I'm getting at here. I took it personally. As a matter of fact, I talked to one of the other guys on the team, Richard, and he followed it as well, and he said, well, was it worth it for the both of you? Like, did you walk away with it? Did you get out of it what you wanted to? And all I got out of it was hostility.
But it was
anger.
a positive thing, though, because it put a smile on Rhett's face.
Yeah, but that's too big of a cost.
Yeah, at too big of a cost. And so I think that's something that I'm going to maybe try and focus in on a little bit, is to not take things so personally as a way of applying what Sister Payne taught us today. Because I absolutely agree in everything that she talked about when she said you cannot focus just on negative things. You have to be able to move to a positive thing. You have to. And so for that, I mean, I'm grateful for her lesson today.
Richard's quietly wise.
Oh,
Kaiser?
incredibly so.
He doesn't not a huge talker, but he'll say something. I'm like, that's the wisest thing I've heard all week. Like, it's like ridiculous how he'll just sum it up one sentence. You're like, huh, Okay. That's a really, really smart thing, William.
Maybe you guys have something that you could talk about.
I don't really have anything that comes to mind other than in regards to the lesson and along the same strain. Somebody at one point said, because I was complaining about church. This is a long time ago. I mean, this is like early BYU days, maybe. And it was like, I was like, some lessons are so boring. Like, why do we go? I go because I'm supposed to. I'm bored. I'm sitting there. And it's like, look for the positive. There's got to be one thing you can take out of that lesson. Just one. If not, let's say the subject's prayer and you're bored and it's the same lesson and someone others teach you, why should we pray? It's like, you know what? Open up your scriptures and teach yourself something about prayer. Sit there and read and just ignore them. Use the hour to reflect on prayer.
For those people who do that, what typically I've found that they're people who don't even bother to prepare for class anyway.
Yeah.
Like, they know what's going to be taught the next Sunday, and they don't ever bother to look through the lesson. That's I get it. I harp on teachers a lot because I am one, and a lot of times I talk about how the bad teacher is criminally negligent or I should say spiritually negligent in the way that they sometimes carry across their Sunday school lesson or elders quorum lesson, because they have such a great opportunity to carry something across. Well, yes, let's say we've got some teacher that is just absolutely fantastic and is just the best ever. If the student out there isn't bothering to pay attention, then, they're not getting anything out of it anyway. My point is, there's two people there. You can just get negative on the fact that, this is a crappy teacher and therefore I'm not going to learn anything.
Yeah.
Or you can focus in and say, you know what, let's come to this with the right light and seek for the Spirit to teach me something. Because it shouldn't be the teacher teaching you something. It should be the Spirit teaching you.
Also, isn't it kind of your responsibility? Like, if you're learning something about prayer or learning something about the lesson, isn't it your responsibility to kind of bring that into class?
What's that? Yeah, that was kind of what I was going to say. Like, I've had lessons where I've been in and that I've taught where the class has taught the lesson. And you get some participation. And it's like amazing.
Well, you guys remember when I used to teach elders quorum?
Yes. Which time?
I've done it, like, with you, I've done it like 4 or 5 times, I think. Like, 4 or 5 different callings.
I remember the flour you brought as a centerpiece.
Oh, yeah.
It was a bag of meadow gold flour.
Yeah, those are my more
Flour.
cheeky days. Yeah. But pretty much every elders quorum lesson, I've never taught Sunday school, which is weird, but I've taught tons of elders quorum lessons, and just about every single one, I look at what I prepared, I'm like, I don't know if this is going to be enough to do the time, fill the time. Somehow, with me, the elders always pulled through. And I can't really explain. I have no idea why. But I would just be able to just kind of say, so what's the deal with this? Not even knowing what the answer is, knowing what my opinion on it was. And the awesome elders would rise up to the occasion to really teach the class. I thought it was without fail. It was weird.
Elder McConkie gave a talk once. I can't remember if it was his 7 Deadly Heresies talk.
That's old.
But he talked about how the teacher comes prepared to, give out essentially water, and he only brings a little cup to dispense instead of a huge pitcher. But out in the audience, the guy sitting there either brings, a full glass, or he brings just like a little thimble full. Both people are responsible to be able to bring something to both situations. So for anybody to sit back and judge a teacher and say, oh man, they were horrible. Well, were they? Or, could you have also prepared a little bit better to have received from the Spirit? Maybe they weren't the best teacher, but I guarantee you could have been able to walk away with something. Absolutely.
Yeah.
As an example, I don't want to talk too much, but I gave a class once in Elders Quorum where the topic was delegating. It was from this old manual that I got handed, and it was probably one of the worst lessons I've ever taught. It was really hot in the old institute days, and it was awful. People were falling asleep. Matter of fact, the bishop fell asleep. I could see him asleep. And one guy came up to me afterwards and says, you know what, Brother Nash, thank you so much. this was exactly what I needed to hear today. And I said, are you kidding me? That crap? That was horrible. He said, no, you don't understand. I have just been going through some stuff right now that I really needed to hear this. And it was just a reaffirming time to say, okay, the Lord is in charge of what goes on here, not me.
Huh. Wow. No, that's amazing. Delegating was the lesson?
Yeah, it was seriously. When I got handed, I was like,
That's like
delegating?
That's like,
Well, do you know...
the mission guide preparing a baptismal service.
Well, it's P-Day. Let's do the preparing a baptismal service missionary guide.
Make sure the font gets turned on.
Well, okay, if I got the topic of delegating to teach, I mean, you know exactly what I'm going to do. Okay, yeah, no, drum roll. I'd open it up, look at the guy in the front row, throw in the book, this lesson's yours. Sit back down. Thank you. Thank you for the drum roll.
That was a softball joke.
Yeah, I know. Thanks for pitching that one in there. Okay, well, okay, I should say, maybe I should make some goals about like turning things positive.
Yeah,
I have so many negative things about my life. We all know this. So many negative things. Like one of my problems, probably not my biggest problem, but one of my problems is I goof off in too many different ways. Maybe if I just focused on goofing off in one or two ways. And like I include like goofing off in like...
Wait, so you mean get better at goofing off?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm down with it.
Okay, because listen,
I'm following him.
Goofing off. Maybe I should refine that meaning because I don't really. I do waste my time goofing off, sure, but there are some things I consider this goofing off. This is goofing off, and I think it's a good, positive thing that
you're the owner of the word, so you should get to define it. Absolutely,
right. And so, this is a great podcast. I have 3 other podcasts that I do, and I have 9 or 10 other blogs that I do. Maybe I should just focus on maybe 2 blogs a week and 1 podcast. I don't know. And I think I can turn those into a positive rather than negative. Like I have my comic strip that I always wanted to work on that I'm behind in that.
Yeah, I think you should do that.
My Christmas present to my family that I haven't gotten them yet.
It's April.
Yeah, I don't know. I gave my mom's birthday was in April. I gave her Christmas present for her birthday. And you guys know what my Christmas present was. It's a little Photoshop deal that I did for all my friends, but I haven't done it for my family. Several other blogs, several other podcasts, which unfortunately aren't super popular, but, people do listen to them. Like 2 people in the world listen to them, and I feel bad when I let those 2 people down. But, I gotta focus on my goofing off. What can I say?
Okay.
And you don't want to make yourself better at all, Rhett?
No, I'm good.
Okay. No, that's fine.
Well, actually, lately I have been. And it wasn't from today's lesson, but it was interesting because lately I have been focusing on getting stuff done. Like I have all these ideas, I have all these different things floating around there, and I've been getting stuff done. I took the GMAT because I wanted to get it done. It's only taken me 5 years, but I finally said, you know what? I'm getting it done. I have this, a business idea right now. I'm like, you know what? I'm doing it. I don't know how I'm doing it, but I'm doing it. And, last night I sat down and programmed one of the pages. I just did it. It's ugly. It's fine. I'll change it later. But at least it started. So, yeah, that's all.
All right. When you finish that, could you please get past level 6 of the original Legend of Zelda? It's impossible.
It is impossible.
It's really hard. Yeah. Okay. Anyway.
Let's move on.
Yeah. What's next week for Sunday school, by the way?
It's state conference next week.
Oh, that's right. Okay. So state conference is next week.
I won't be here, but if you guys want to do something great,
we might still do state conference.
I'll be out of town. So
I don't know, maybe. Okay, fine. Okay, well, we have a little bit of time left. Rhett has to go pretty soon, but
yeah.
So quick second topic: geography of the Book of Mormon.
Okay.
Lehi landed somewhere on this North or South America, and the action of the Book of Mormon, takes place, somewhere around here. We don't know exactly where. 3 models. Okay, and one, of course, is landed South America. There's the narrow neck of land, which is Middle America, and the Nephites were in North America, the Lamanites were in South America. The gold plates eventually wound up, of course, in North America, in New York. Second model, everything is just much smaller than that. Everything happens around like Panama or somewhere, and that's right where the narrow neck of land is. North of the Panama Canal, pretty much, is the land of Bountiful, land of Zarahemla, where the Jaredites were, which, and then south of that is where the Lamanites were. Anybody know what the third model is?
I'm not entirely certain. I don't know that I would necessarily agree with the whole Panama thing, because I still see that as just, well, it's the same thing as the big one, except it's in a probably tighter knit area.
Yeah.
One of the other theories I've heard is actually that it was up further from I want to say the Isthmus of Tehuantepec or something. It was like further north of the Panama, so not necessarily right in Central America.
Like the Yucatan area?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just south of Mexico.
So
Okay,
no.
right. The Yucatan. Okay,
I guess that is Central America, isn't it? Sorry.
Yeah.
So
What
that,
a dumb
that's kind of
statement that
similar
was.
to the second. Is that the one that said like the Yucatan comes up and the West Sea is actually the Gulf of Mexico? We would consider it the East Sea, but it's on the west of that peninsula, and so that's why we kind of.
I'm not remembering my geography.
That's the
very
Wikipedia
well.
version. I'm looking right now.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, there is a really interesting. It's too bad we can't be gathered by the computer. I guess we can be gathered by the computer because I have a couple of pages up, with some of this. Other. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. The third one.
The third one, which maybe I guess we should say the fourth one, is actually in the Great Lakes area.
Really?
Yes. Which.
I'm not buying it.
Yeah.
Which makes sense, especially like it is like the Great Lakes and like the Finger Lakes area of New York. That was considered where the land of many waters were, for example, and the archaeological evidence behind that. Because there's a little bit of archaeological evidence for this. For example, in the second one, the Panama area, you had the Mayan civilization is kind of similar to the Nephites, and they had the temples and stuff. And then before them was the Olmec civilization, which that corresponds very well with the Jaredites. So there you
Sure.
go. In the Great Lakes area, they found similarities with, I think, a group of mound builders.
Yeah, I've heard about the mound builders. Yeah.
Native American mound builders that kind of have similar things to the Nephites, but and of course the hill Cumorah is right there. If the action did take place in Central America somewhere, Moroni didn't have to walk across the entire continent to go upstate New York. He was already there, which that makes sense.
Right.
So anyway, what do you guys think? Where do you think, Pete?
I would have to take it to the Central America area, the one that I
the one
referenced.
you said, up north
just
a little bit.
because structurally you see all of the things that are there. It's clear that there were ancient societies there. It's roughly around the same general time period, and it's clear that there is some sort of historical correlation in certain ways that you look at it. I would put it there. I certainly would say the first and the last one. So like North and South America are the land northward and the land southward. I would throw that right out just because of the fact that you have people who are traveling from the land southward up to the land northward in a matter of a couple of days.
Yeah.
Physically, there is just no way possible for that to happen.
Yeah.
And the one at the end where you say that the Great Lakes area, I would have to say no to that because I don't know of any narrow neck of land that could be utilized as this is the narrow neck of land.
Yeah, I think.
And here's the two seas on either side.
Well, it's between the two Great Lakes, perhaps.
Yeah, I just can't buy that because all it takes is a guy, who walks around them, in 2 days and says, "Oh, hey, these are lakes. They're that's not a sea. There's stuff on the other side."
I don't know. I think it'd take a lot more than 2 days to walk around the Great Lakes.
Well,
here's
I'm being facetious.
Here's the thing, though. The reason I can't get into the Great Lakes thing is I can't figure out where Lehi or the Mulekites could have landed in the middle of the continent. That's my deal. And, I apologize. We're going to have to revisit this because, I just kind of glanced at this. The people who espouse these have all their reasons that I didn't look at, but I just kind of wanted to see what you guys
Well,
thought.
I know Farms has a huge research on it.
Yeah.
Here's my experience with it. I never even thought about it. I didn't care until I got to the mission. I was like, yeah, they landed.
And
here.
we don't
Who
need
cares
to
where?
care. We don't need to care.
No, we don't really
Yeah.
care. And this is all just we're talking out our rears anyway.
Yeah.
When I got to Chile, I was indoctrinated in the local missionary custom of knowing that they told me, they straight up, my companion, my Zerda, like, yeah, this is where they landed. I'm like, what do you mean this is where they landed? Like, it was up by Viña del Mar. I'm like, Nephi landed in Chile? They're like, yeah. I'm like, well, how do you know? It's like, there's been numerous apostles who've said this. I'm like, really? And there were stories, and one of them I did hear from a very reputable guy. He said, the elder...
I want to say Frederick or something.
No, Elder Irene.
Oh.
No, not Elder Irene. It was Elder Holland. I can't remember. But they said, like, he was in Vienna, and he was meeting with the sick presidents and their authorities and said, I have a strong feeling this is where Nephi landed. And I actually had a mission conference where the area president said, Nephi fue chileno, which means Nephi was Chilean. He said that. He said,
Okay.
This is the history of the things.
But in fairness, as you've mentioned many times, Chileans have a way of
They're arrogant.
claiming...
Well, but the area president was from Idaho.
Oh,
So-
okay, sorry.
But I had other issues with him. We could talk about another day. Put that on your list of things to talk about.
Guy
when
from Idaho.
when we should question our leaders.
Oh, gosh.
When can we question
that's
leaders?
I think that's a fun one.
Because he was an area president, and I had huge issues with him. Right up to the moment where he drowned.
I was afraid you were actually going to mention that.
Which I heard missionaries say it was an act of God that he died, and I was like, that'll be a whole. That's definitely mine. Put my name next to that. But
You got some really good
the one thing about the Nephites possibly happened in Chile, that countryside was built for what happened in the Book of Mormon. There's these little hills that come out of the middle of nowhere, and we played on as missionaries and Peter. We go hike them and stuff, but it felt like you were in the Book of Mormon. And when you would hike around these things, it was just a random hill. Like, it'd be flat, Chile's kind of built like the Wasatch Front, mountains in the east, kind of peters out to the west, and it's just narrow strip. Everything is north and south, but there's just random hills, and they'll be 500 feet high, and they're round on top. And I'm like, you could totally have battles on these hills. Like, it felt like it.
Sure.
And the fruits there, it is a bountiful land. If you want to, I know not a bountiful, whatever, but it's very, there's rivers and lakes and everything.
You could have a big society or
You totally
group of
could,
people.
especially with the Andes Mountains being there. That's the one thing that I was kind of like, well, wouldn't we have more mentions of huge mountains in the Book of Mormon? Because getting through the Andes is not a trick.
It's one of the interesting things is the fact that we never, ever, and another reason why I don't like the Great Lakes region is we never once hear anything about cold weather or snow.
Yeah, and actually Chile, it doesn't ever snow. It does in the mountains. You can see it.
Yeah.
But you can go, so if you head farther north, I could definitely see it.
That's why I feel like an equator
or the Central
something
America.
along the equator.
Well, my parents went on a trip to the Yucatan Peninsula, and the local guide said, "Where are y'all from?" They said, "Oh, from Utah." He goes, "You Mormon?" And they're like, "Yeah." He goes, "So do you want the Mormon version of this tour?" The guy was LDS, and he was like, showed him he was like, "Yeah, they found a tablet here that said, and it came to pass on it in some ancient mine." I don't know. We need farms to get in on this, but that's all my take on this so far.
Okay, well, I'm just going to say the second one, the Panama, just because, that just, the narrow neck of land, it makes sense.
My question is, but do you guys believe they landed on the west side of the continent or the east side?
I've always thought the west side.
I didn't know. It wasn't until I got to Chile I realized that they were saying the west side, and I'm like, really? So I guess he left and went past Australia, across the Pacific, past Easter Island, and ended up...
It's either that or he has to go around the Cape of...
It must have been.
He had a straight shot from going east from the bottom of Saudi Arabia.
And I never thought about that.
But it wouldn't... that's a long, straight shot.
It is. That's huge.
So, just because you have to go around Africa doesn't mean it's less convenient.
Where did the Jaredites land? West side also?
I don't think we have any sort of like from the book itself. I don't think they gave us any directions.
Well, they were in a dish.
Well,
But the trouble is, we don't know where they necessarily started off from.
The Jaredites?
Yes.
I
We talk about how they were around the time of the Tower of Babel.
I was going to say it's
But we do. I think historically we would think that that happened somewhere in Babylon around the Fertile Crescent, up in that general area. But was it? I mean, I could seriously see them have traveled down to the Mediterranean coast across that way for the Jaredites and being able to, they headed west. It would have been a much straighter shot for them to go that way. But in fairness, they don't exactly have maps of the entire world, so they can't say, "Oh, yes, this would be closer. Let's go this way."
They were navigating. They were in these.
That's true. That's true.
Oval things like an egg, tight as a dish, not egg
Yeah.
dish, but they who knows where that.
Yeah.
The only thing we do know is that Moroni buried plates in Hill Cumorah. That we know, right?
Right. So
Yes.
Great Lakes, that settles it.
Whether he was alive or deceased after the fact is a note of contention.
Is it?
Did he bury them as a resurrected being, or did he bury them as someone who had traveled all that way up there?
Never heard that.
You haven't? Oh, wow.
So he could have done it
That's
a week before Joseph Smith got him?
That's the two Hill Cumorah theory that's often brought up and said, look, it doesn't. Why does it have to be where the Hill Cumorah where the final battle took place is the same Hill Cumorah, which, by the way, I believe it was Oliver Cowdery who named it the Hill Cumorah, where he got the plates from. Why those two have to be the same thing? It could have been, from the last battle to when Moroni finally buries the plates.
So, he got resurrected.
It's possible.
And then, Christ says to him, "You're way off with where you buried those things."
Boy, I need you to keep going here. Yeah, I don't know. It seems unlikely, but it's one of the things that people have mentioned.
The bottom line, does it really matter? Not really.
Here's the thing. Here's what I was going to say. Not only does it not matter, I mean, yes, it doesn't matter, but I don't think that should preclude us from talking about it because I love talking about it. But I think God is going to have several different solutions here. He's not going to point us in one direction. There's never going to be a single place, and there will never be archaeological evidence that proves the Book of Mormon correct. Just like I don't think there's ever going to be archaeological evidence that disproves. Because the whole point of the coming forth of the Book of Mormon is that we have to have faith and we have to ask Heavenly Father if it's true. And we can't have the physical representations to crutch on. And so I think it's very interesting that there are all of these solutions, there are all of these theories, and they all are so compelling in their own ways.
So, go on.
But
there isn't going to be one.
So it's like Lost. We'll never know actually. We'll find out here in the next 6 weeks? 5 weeks?
Oh my goodness.
We'll find out in the next 5 or 6 weeks, how the show ends. And one thing I'm certain of, we won't have. It's not going to get tied up completely. We'll have some questions answered.
Not every question that each person has is going to get answered.
Yeah.
Well, even major ones, I don't think will get answered. So,
well, also bear in mind that the second coming will probably happen before the very end of Lost, and so we'll never really know.
That's funny. I have one thought though, that's totally off subject, but came from that. We don't have archaeological evidence that the Bible exists, right? People give us crap about the Book of Mormon. What about the Bible?
There are problems. There are archaeological problems with the Bible, especially
with certain things of the Bible. Yes.
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about if you're giving the Book of Mormon crap for not having archaeological proof. I think the Bible has more problems, archaeologically speaking.
It could. I mean, well, there are things like the Exodus. That's a big problem.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean the Exodus?
Well, there's no evidence of a group of people from that time.
Or I should say, the Egyptians don't necessarily have any sort of history about that. Which, you know what? Quite honestly, Well, that's not surprising. The Egyptians were very selective about what they chose to put into history, and they have rewritten their history so many times with each new pharaoh that comes along.
Right.
I'm not just talking Old Testament. I'm talking New Testament.
Well, when Christ died, there were the crazy things that happened. There was the earthquake and the darkness for 3 hours, right? That's only scriptural accounted for. I believe.
Well, and you guys, I guess I said archaeological, so that's why we're talking archaeological. I was also thinking more compendium-wise. I mean, we know the order of the Bible is just because of length, except for Revelation and the New Testament, right? But I mean, who wrote the Book of John? Was it John?
I believe it was.
I think it was John.
Okay.
I mean, not every book in the Bible is.
When did he write it?
There are guesses, but we don't know.
Exactly,
I mean,
that's what I'm saying. It's
I think it was like 90 AD.
We get so much flack for the Book of Mormon. It's like, look at your Bible. Like, it's a book on faith. Take what you want out of it. The whole point is...
It's clear that any sort of meaningful testimony should be built upon the Spirit and not, what evidence one can gain through physical means. Because numerous apostles and gospel teachers have said that's not going to be a testimony that holds up. If it's based off of historical evidence, it's never going to hold up or bear you through the trials that will come in your life. If you have a testimony that's centered upon Christ and the Spirit, then you are going to be able... That's a testimony that's going to be of value and worth.
Okay.
Nevertheless, I do want to revisit this topic. I love
That's
it.
okay by me. I enjoy it.
Okay. By the way, one more thing about geography. We do have reference in the Book of Mormon of snow, and that is in Lehi's dream, where they compare the fruit to the whiteness of driven snow.
Oh, that they knew what snow was?
So they know what snow was.
Well, it snows in Jerusalem.
Really?
It snows in Jerusalem.
No.
Not
in
super often.
The I'll have to look
Actually,
that
hang
up.
on.
Isaiah knew what snow was.
Yeah.
That one we know.
1 Nephi 11:8, the whiteness of the tree exceeds whiteness of driven snow.
Maybe he was just quoting Isaiah.
He could have, but and Isaiah knew. And I mean, Israel was close to snow-capped mountains in Lebanon to the north. But I think, so I think they were familiar with snow. They didn't mention it. They also didn't mention hot weather. Although the Lamanites did
run around
they run around pretty much naked. It says, so it must have been summer during the battles, wherever they were.
Or just Central America where it's hot all year.
It could have been Central America, or it could have been the Great Lakes region where it's very humid, and you're going to want to take some. You're not going to wear that heavy hot armor.
It's not hot in the Great Lakes. Oh, I guess it is in the summer.
Yeah, it's summer.
Pennsylvania absolutely gets very, very humid. I had a brother-in-law who served there, and he said it was crazy hot.
I think Great Lakes. I think Michigan.
Yeah, so do I. Michigan, Wisconsin.
I guess if you want to talk the lesser Great Lakes. Anyways, anything else?
Yes.
Okay.
Random question, and I asked Pete about this a couple weeks ago. Maybe I talked to you about this, but okay, let's think of big characteristics of the LDS Church seen from the outside. Like, what are some of the major things that people think of when they think of Mormons? Okay, polygamy.
Food storage? No.
Word of wisdom type stuff.
Yeah.
No drinking, no smoking.
Okay, that's a pretty big one. The three I'm kind of going for that I think are very unique to, and those are big. Polygamy is the big one, very big one. Another one is
100 years ago it was Mountain Meadow Massacre.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was.
Go on.
Blacks in the priesthood is a big one.
Oh, of course.
And
missionaries.
It's not as much anymore, but it was. It certainly was.
Totally. The other one is I forgot. What was I going to say? Oh, 3 Degrees of Glory.
Really?
I would say
that's
so.
what we'd be known for?
I think those are some big,
Okay, we'll take your word.
Kind of doctrinal aspects of
Are you talking about
of Mormonism. Okay.
Godlike aspiration.
Yeah.
Okay.
But mostly 3 degrees of glory. And as long as we're talking about the Book of Mormon, I just wanted to ask you this.
What's the third?
No. It's polygamy, blacks in the priesthood,
Okay.
3 degrees of glory.
Okay, go on.
Which that counts for 3, so that's 5 things. So polygamy, which probably could be more than one thing. Blacks in the priesthood, celestial kingdom, terrestrial kingdom, celestial kingdom. 5 things.
Okay, go on.
Okay, don't you find it interesting? This is kind of a what's up with that I can't really figure out. The Book of Mormon kind of addresses all 3 of these things. The Book of Mormon addresses polygamy in Jacob 3, right?
Yes.
And what is addressed is don't do it. The Book of Mormon addresses the afterlife quite often, but pretty much without fail, the afterlife is composed of a hell and a heaven. And no mention of the 3 degrees of glory is mentioned in the Book of Mormon. And the Book of Mormon, and this is kind of mild, but the Book of Mormon does mention when it says, the way to Christ is open to all, both black and white, bond and free. That passage from 2 Nephi 26. And so this is my question: what's up with that? It's the Book of Mormon, and the big things, the really big things about Mormonism are covered in the Book of Mormon, but they seem to say the opposite of what the doctrine actually that came about from the Book of Mormon.
No. Because the Doctrine and Covenants is where we get all of the revelations on these doctrine.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you want to live in the religion of the Book of Mormon, you're 1,600 years too late.
Okay.
But if you want to live in our religion, it's the Doctrine and Covenants, not the Book of Mormon.
Okay, so you seem to be saying the Doctrine and Covenants is a bit more important than the Book of Mormon there.
I had a class one time with a professor at the Y who said, if you could only choose one book, which one do you take? And the Old Testament is a dead religion. The New Testament is a living dead religion. The Book of Mormon is a dead religion.
So it's like the New Testament's a zombie religion.
He didn't say those, but I remember taking those like, our guide to religion is the Doctrine and Covenants.
Interesting.
And that's where we get them all. And if we have revelations today, where do they get put? They get put in the Doctrine and Covenants.
Definitely.
They can. I mean, it's been... Although I think we see the Proclamation of the Family get added in as a section, don't you?
One day.
Some sort of appendium or something. Mm-hmm. But as far as your question exactly, I think it's got to talk about the degrees. I'm going to have to research this, but I'm thinking somewhere in Alma, doesn't he talk about the degrees a little bit? I know it talks about the mark of Cain. And the Nephites, the conversions becoming wider. I mean,
which never really goes over too well because that's kind of an emphasis. That's kind of an emphasis on the separation, which I'm not super comfortable with.
This is one of those things where you should have given us beforehand. Because I don't want to look them all up.
Yeah, you snuck a third topic in.
I know. Well,
you're breaking your own rules.
I told you this like a month ago.
Yeah,
and you said you'd get back to me.
Well, I don't know that there's no clear question. You're just saying, what's up with that?
That's a clear question. What up with that?
So, then I'm going to give you my answer. That's just the way that it is.
Yeah.
If you want to get specific, I could probably do some stuff, but I'm just not sure I fully understand.
Well, it's almost like I don't have... This is not... Okay, I don't want to say this is like this big, crazy, serious question that I have issues with. It's just a weird thing. I think it's just a weird thing that I think is kind of interesting, something that I've noticed, just kind of, what do you know? Because in the Bible, you actually do have plural marriage. It's kind of a normal thing.
Well, you do in the Book of Mormon, though.
It does talk about the... I don't know if plural marriage is ever a normal thing in the Book of Mormon.
A good thing. The Jacob scripture referred to says not to do it unless commanded. So you got to assume someone's commanded.
Okay, maybe you can assume that. But 3 degrees of glory is a New Testament concept.
That's it. No, it's a Doctrine and Covenants concept.
It was New Testament first as far as publishing goes.
Okay.
And yeah, so I think it's kind of because those are these are some of the things that people don't like the Mormons for, and there's more evidence for that, the stuff they don't like us for in the Bible than our own Book of Mormon.
Okay.
So I just think it's fascinating.
But it's because we live the Doctrine and Covenants.
Yeah. Okay, so anyway, I had one more thing I wanted to do. We don't have to do it.
We do it later.
We can do it later. Okay. I wanted to do it. It's maybe I'll do it with Pete. But,
give me a preview. Well,
it's just a game. I wanted to play a game. This game that we used to play in on our mission.
Is it Book of Mormon Golf?
Is I don't know what it's called, where you open up the Book of Mormon
and you start reading.
And you see how many verses you can get through before someone else starts reading.
Find it. Yeah.
And so we could do this every week and we could have a leaderboard of who's doing it the best.
Okay. We could let's start that up maybe another time.
Yeah.
Well, we can do it in 2 weeks.
Because it's in my car.
I was going to tell you that. Oh, it's in your car?
Yeah, I came from church.
Well, I didn't think you brought your scriptures since you have them on your phone.
I still do. Oh, I was going to plug. I'll put this on the list.
Okay.
Things I want to talk about. This will be my random
one.
This
podcast is just going to be filled with things that we should talk about sometime.
Well, Rhett's got some good.
This one,
all your ideas have been really good.
This is LDS. I bought the scriptures for my iPhone. You can get a free version. It's out there. But the version I bought was $15, which in the iTunes store, if none of you are aware, is unheard of. No one sells stuff for that much in the iTunes store. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's apps that are. There's a couple medical ones that go for hundreds of dollars, but for the standard layperson, $15 is like, what? I want to talk about that next week.
Okay, good.
The reason I'm not going to do today is because I'm out of time.
Fair enough. Okay, we'll talk about that next week. We're going to be talking about state conference next week.
That and it would have been our fifth topic for the discussion this week.
That's okay, good.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I had a lot of time.
Okay, we'll limit it. All right, I got to go.
Okay, fine. Go. Anyway, goodbye. We'll see you.